Good morning. It's Summer Westerber with Kairos Insurance Cannabis Division. This morning I'm joined by Mike Liss of Integrity Counsel. He is a cannabis attorney, and we're here to discuss the future of the cannabis industry in Florida. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Summer.
So I know you write for Cannabis News Daily. You tried one of the first cases in Florida for cannabis. I know, like me, though, you also work outside of cannabis. This is just one area where you work. I know you do like real estate litigation, business transaction. I also, work in cannabis insurance, but I also work for other types of businesses doing their insurance. But this morning, I really just want to discuss with you, the future of the cannabis industry in Florida. Obviously, this is a big potential market. A lot of cannabis businesses are probably interested in entering it. And I know, that there's a case that you could share some information about.
Yeah, the Flora grown case is going to determine the future of both the medical and potentially expedite the future of recreational cannabis in Florida. Just a quick primer on the Florida system in case somebody from another state has no idea. We have a strictly vertically integrated system. It started in 2014 with the Compassionate Care Act that allowed for low THC cannabis. It started with the Charlotte's Web strain and the kid who had epilepsy, and that led to a movement that allowed for low THC cannabis for the 3 FDA approved conditions, which are juvenile epilepsy, cancer, chemotherapy, and wasting syndrome, whether it's from cancer, AIDS, or any other reason. In 2016, we put item 2 on the Florida ballot. And it's in Florida, we have a mechanism where the citizens get to put into their constitution what they deem to be their own rights. And then there's a process by which the legislature has to pass laws that bring the people's will into law, because a constitution isn't law. It's like the guiding principles, but you need actual laws. And then agencies have to make rules. So it's always a slow rollout. And what happened in Florida was the legislature made, instead of what is claimed to be the people's will, which is a very accessible system with qualified providers handling parts of the cannabis system, enacting a thorough legal credentialing process by which anybody who met criteria could be licensed to be in the cannabis industry by the time, and we have a part-time legislature in Florida, so it was all done in a month. By the time they drafted the one law that governed everything in Florida's system, what they came up with was you have to be the person who placed the seed into the soil to be the person that hands any product to the patient. So the way they did it on the business side was by saying X, 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 and X allow you to be qualified to get a license. But they said there's only going to be this number of licenses until this, and this happens. And those things ain't happening. And that means that only the people who got the compassionate care licenses in 2014 have been able to operate, or people who were qualified and bought those original licenses from the original operator. So we have roughly 24 licenses that are allowed, and about 14 that have any dispensaries at all. And we have about 8 that have multiple dispensaries, and about 5 companies that are really known and operate, unless you're a local and or near one of the less volumed medical marijuana treatment centers. And we have one provider that has about 53% of the state's market. So what we have is really monopoly power. The state actually created a system where there's like a dozen lucky tickets. And if you get into the chocolate factory, you're in the chocolate factory. But even though you qualify for a golden ticket, you can't get your golden ticket.
Right.
So there's a guy who wanted his golden ticket.
Okay.
Owned a company, said, I want my golden ticket. Owned a company called Flora Grown, and said, I qualified, the state qualified me. I'm qualified already. Give me my license. They said, no, we ain't giving any new ones, only the people from 2014. So he sued, and the trial court issued an immediate injunction saying, you got to give it to the guy. He's qualified. And the people of the state said that anyone who's qualified should be in the cannabis business. And the state of Florida, the DeSantis administration pushed back and appealed that to the District Court of Appeals, which agreed quickly and said, there's really nothing to talk about here. We don't have monopolies. This is the United States. And like, this doesn't really make sense to us. How do you rationally figure out that only a dozen people of all the qualified people can move forward? But it's always on technical legal grounds. It's never like the consumer public hears. And the Florida Supreme Court accepted the case and had oral arguments, seemed very inclined to get rid of the system as it existed, but seemed a little muddled with the attorney's arguments and actually focused in on the one throwaway argument that neither side really focused on. The Supreme Court said, no, this is the issue. We want you to fully brief this issue and come back and argue. Those arguments have happened, and any day, or from whenever it's politically expedient or whatever it is, for some reason, it's been another 6 months and the court hasn't ruled.
I
But
feel like
it's going
we've
to
been waiting for quite a while for this decision.
it's going to disrupt the system in any number of ways. And you lay on top of that, we now have COVID, and the state of Florida, like most states, has a balanced budget requirement. So we could have a cascade of effects real quickly. We could have a court decision and financial needs that do away with our system as we know it altogether. And although it's not necessarily the conservative Republican traditional choice, it seems in Florida, the younger Republican legislative clerks up to the representatives seem to be very pro-cannabis, which seems counterintuitive, but they seem to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ron DeSantis has a lot of people chatting into his ear that the easy way to do away with both the struggles of the Florida-grown case and budget deficits will be to not even wait until the 2022, just like the 2020 and the 2018, the battle for which ballot initiative will survive amongst the constituents, because one will eventually be voted on and approved.
Yeah.
They may just move ahead themselves as legislators, and an executive, being the governor, deciding that financially what the state needs is to bring its future into the present, because it's coming one way or another. Everybody knows that.
So what does the market look like depending on this decision? Like if it goes one way, like how do you see the market changing down here?
Well, on the medical side, assume it doesn't go recreational, it stays medical. It could stay the way things are now. I don't think it will, but it can. Then there are two different divergent ways it can go, which would be to allow more people to do things the way it's done now, which would mean a lot more competition over time, but probably no immediate effects because it takes a couple of years to get licensed, find the real estate, build out the space, get the occupational licenses and everything you need to do to run a business.
Right.
If we go quickly recreational, it will still be different than if we go horizontal within the medical space. Within the medical space, it's quite likely under the Florida-grown decision, in my opinion, that people will do bits of the business. They'll all have to get licensed to be a cannabis provider, but some people will do the growing. Some people will do the extracting. Some people will do the packaging. Some people will just do the drying and curing. Some people will deliver. Every part of the business would be done by different businesses instead of Trulieve does 53% of all of that. Which is, I mean, it's a great company and they're growing because people love them. But they'd love to be able to sub out some of their work. They have other brands that work under their umbrella just to be able to sell their products. So Sunshine Cannabis is a brand that has to use Trulieve's facilities and Trulieve has to do the work, but they've got proprietary strains and methodology that they're waiting to take out into the world. And there's a lot of people in our space in different states that would love to be in Florida doing all of those things.
Yeah, definitely. I hear from Colorado clients frequently, what's going on in the Florida market. And, so I know people are definitely interested and eager to hear what happens. When do you think we can expect this decision?
The last 6 months, that's what it is to be a lawyer. Like, you have no idea what's happening behind the scenes during a pandemic in the Supreme Court.
Right.
Books have been written about the United States Supreme Court over the decades, and they change depending on the Chief Justice. And it's always interesting for a lawyer to read how somebody will try to build consensus or what the considerations are. Nobody really knows what happens in a state Supreme Court. There's no rules that govern them. They're the Supreme Court. They tell the politicians what to do. So whenever it comes, it comes.
All right. Yeah. Anything else about, the future Florida market that you think would be interesting?
Well, about the Florida market, we're really the backwater in terms of states that have a program. And I'm a medical patient with medical needs, and the system works for me. But it's a really idiosyncratic system. No other state that I know of is like this. And I try to read up on what other states are into. What I can tell you about the Florida system is it's not going to last. It doesn't make sense and it won't last. Even the people in the business making money could still make more money doing it differently. And the state can certainly make more money from the providers other than licensing fees for 13 businesses that are operating. So the system's going to change. And we have the advantage of looking at everything from California's mixed experiments to Washington and Oregon's failed experiments to, states that are coming online, like Oklahoma's becoming the cannabis capital, and they're doing it broadly. Like anyone can get a
Yeah.
license, but
I mean, it's interesting though, because some of the insurance companies I work with are a little bit hesitant to write now in Oklahoma. And actually, they're also pretty hesitant to write in Florida. And I do wonder how that will impact the industry here, in the future.
it's going to evolve. I mean, it's not like a light switch that goes off and on. The benefit that Oklahoma has is it's the newest that's up and running.
Yeah.
So it has every other 33 other states' operations to take a look at. So when Florida adjusts its system, whatever it turns into, it's now going to have a couple of years of this system working for some and not working for some at all, but also get to see the data and updates from other states. And the system itself gets here administered by our Department of Health. I'd love to see the Department of Agriculture, our ag secretary brought the hemp bill into life in Florida and is very pro cannabis. She comes from the cannabis industry, Nikki Fried. I'd love to see her be an administrator of a Department of Cannabis, just a separate entity itself between hemp and marijuana, medical, recreational, industrial, fuel, everything, because it all derives from one family of plant. Like it could have its own department for everything from industrial to medical to recreational uses. Florida's hemp industry is about to replace in its entirety the orange industry. We're about to not have oranges. Like citrus canker killed off the industry. So while we still have orange groves, California grows all of America's oranges. So there's actually incentive programs in place in the hemp program to do away with your orange groves and plant hemp. We're going to have biofuel. There's already, I know of at least one home that's made with all hemp fiber in Tarpon Springs, Florida, and somebody patented the house material. So the future of what could be done with these plants is everything from fun to farming to structures to psychology to everything. It's going to be big, and it's definitely not going to be what it is now. Where it goes is going to depend on what the judges say the state has to do, and then the legislators will explore within what the courts tell them they have to do. what they can do, or the state will just get progressive on its own because it needs money.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're probably at our time limit, but thank you so much for joining me on this. I will leave your website information in the description of this video. If anybody wants to reach out, I will also leave my information in the description. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.